Okay, hello, everybody. Good to see everybody's face. It's been a while. Feels like a really long time for me. Um, how's everybody doing? I know we've had a big heat wave up here. Ashley, you've probably had that as well. Cinda is in it. I mean, I think most of us here, it's been pretty hard. Was that pretty hard, Ashley?
We've had heat waves, but we've actually had a lot of rain this week. So we've actually had there's been flash flooding down in the south of Utah.
Oh,
So yeah.
okay. Yeah, we've had unseasonable heat up here that's taken everybody by surprise. So they just, a lot of the houses are not built with air conditioning, so or apartments or where, dwellings, and a lot of people have been suffering. So I guess in Utah, you're used to the hotter heat in the summer anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely been hotter than it usually is, but we're used to it. So
Yeah. Okay, well, today we're going to start out talking about purpose because that's what we've been doing. And then we've taken this, 3 week break, I guess we've had. And so I'm just wondering if people have been thinking about their purpose and what ideas that have you come up with? Like, well, let's just start out. I'll ask a different question. So let's start out by asking from all of you, and I can only really interact with the people who are joining us on Zoom. If people on Facebook want to contribute, you can type in the chat box and Anna will be monitoring that for us. Yes, my faithful assistant, Anna. What would I do without her? So anyway, so among the people here, what do you think we need to know or have? What resources do we need in order to know what our purpose is? I know we think, well, I'll just go to a psychic and they can tell me, but let's just take that one off the table. um, so what ideas do you have? What do we need to know? Do I have to pick on somebody? Debbie. Like you might.
In here, possibly if you looked at where your really strong passions lie or your talents lie, that might be a place to start looking.
That's a good place. Passions and talents. The other Debbie.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was thinking of you, but then I saw
okay.
she unmuted too. So Debbie in Wales. What?
Definitely passion, but I think we've got to have that, probably have that drive. It's having that thought that manifests, that gives you the pull to want to really do it. If it's something that you're going to, you just drive forward. But of course, you've got to have the thought first for it to manifest into something that you want to have passion for.
Okay. The only thing that I'm thinking about with passion, where it's true, passion, drive, what's going to get you up in the morning. When you fall in love with somebody, that gives you that same feeling, right? But it's not necessarily around purpose. That may not actually be pointing to purpose, but it gets you up in the morning and it drives you, motivates you, gives you passion, but it's really just about something else, right? It's about connecting with that person. So yes, those are factors, but we're going to need some other things in order for that to make sense in the realm of purpose. So who else? Ashley Ann, do you have any ideas? What else would we need to know or have to start to pinpoint our purpose?
For me personally, like last time that we were here, I had looked at one of my past lives, and for me personally, it's always being open to seeing something even deeper than was there before. Like, it's very easy just to see the surface level, like me doing art.
Okay. And so then the question would be, why, why are you doing art, or what's the purpose of
Yeah,
the
or seeing other connections to it. Like for me, I saw that I had a connection to helping with restoring innocence in people in one of my past lives with art.
Okay, fascinating. Okay, restoring innocence. And then you could actually take that question even deeper. What would be the purpose of restoring innocence, right? And keep looking at that deeper question each time. And then from that perspective, you could go into other lifetimes and see what you've done, and then see how those thread together, right? How do those weave together towards one aim, right? Cool. Cinda, what about you? And do you have any other ideas of things we need to explore in ourselves in order to come to this realization?
No, I don't think I have anything really creative to add, except I just think it's whatever we're drawn to for whatever reason, just something that we feel compelled. We don't understand it why, but I think that's what leads us to what our purpose is eventually.
Yeah, as long as it's healthy, I guess.
Well, yeah, true, true.
Right? It still
Mm-hmm.
has to have some parameters, because you could be compelled to eat chocolate all day.
Yeah. Um, yeah, my brain's been so hot. I haven't really thought about this a lot since the last time we talked.
I know, I thought I'm going to make everybody else work harder than me today. Dina, are you able to talk? I know we can't see your face yet, but
Yeah, I can talk. What comes to mind is alignment. And so what I mean, I think some people touched on this a little bit. I know that it's hard to figure it out, but like when you make a decision, I want to go to college, and then things, appear that make it possible for you to go to college. That's not the end all, but purpose, I feel, is in part a journey, right? It's of self-discovery. And I don't think that there's one answer to it, but it's fun to play with it, and it ebbs and flows. So I feel that when you are tuned in to your intuition, things unfold. The universe conspires to put things in your path to at least make you feel like you're doing what you're meant to do, for a period of time. And that might wear off. But I think that as I've gotten older, and you're not a child anymore, and you see loved ones pass on, I've thought like, well, when my time does come, what have I done in this world to make it a better place for the next generation? And so, that's not that could be fun to ponder for the next decades, but it wasn't the question I started with when I was 10, in my teens, young adult.
right.
So alignment, and definitely realizing that it ebbs and flows, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there are opportunities, doors that open throughout our lives that maybe point to that, just somehow the universe conspiring. I don't think it always conspires in our favor, but I'm sorry, I'm feeling like it's an allergic reaction to something. I'm not sure what it is, but it's tickling right here. But the doors that open, the opportunities, the invitations to step through into the next thing, like you're saying, what colleges open up, or what pathways, maybe scholarships or, some of these things. In fact, in my career, I know that that's how I evolved to where I am, is just continuing to step through the next opportunity. And if some of them didn't work out, I just, looked for a different door to walk through and just kept kind of following the ones that really were working. It still isn't necessarily my purpose, because I could do a lot of things and still be aiming at my purpose. But it certainly has been a vehicle to achieve that. Okay, Anna, do you have any other ideas? Let's hear from you.
Of my purpose, I've been very, I've been very curious about it and I've been thinking about, but every time I think about it, you say that it's something that you have to do when you are on an island and then nobody's with you. I mean, I guess my purpose, or what I think about that, is like the inspiring others. So my personal growth will be inspiring others to change. So I guess my purpose is changing inside in order to inspire others to do the same. So little by little, everything is being changing. So
Okay.
I guess, well, it's the only idea that it comes to my mind that fit in that standard about the island.
Oh, yeah, because your purpose does need to carry on, whether you're alone, whether you're alive or dead, regardless of the situation that you're in, that does not change your purpose. So these are all good ideas. I'm going to add to it that you would need to know your values, right? So you need to know a pretty clear hierarchy of what's important to you. So one of the exercises that I give my clients, my long-term clients, is a values exercise for them to figure out what are the most important people, or who are the most important people in their lives, what are the most important activities in their life, and what are the most important things in their life. And you can make a huge list. You can start with 10 items each and then put them in order, all together. Or you can, my stack is really huge because I just keep adding to it as I become more aware of things. I mean, you can get as detailed as I'm grateful, or I value having trees. I love, what would the world be without trees, right? Or spirit guides, or, but you can go as fundamental as shelter and food and clean air, clean water. But then you get into family heirlooms and computers and telephones and cars and all of this. And so your list can be really huge. And then people, grandparents, people who are alive or dead, people in your family, your friends, but even the store clerk, what would I do if we didn't have the people stocking groceries in the grocery store, or the checkout people, or, so you can start really getting down to fine points of your values. And in doing this exercise, you actually have this, for me, an overwhelming sense of gratitude and patience with people, or gratitude for what I have, or, things that I get to do. It really puts it in perspective for you. So I would start with a values list, but and some people will do their values, excuse me, will arrange their values, but they put a lot of other people before themselves. And if you think about, like what Anna said about, what if you're on an island by yourself? Then, you know, you're without all those things that are very valuable for you, valuable to you. But putting those aspects of you, those parts of you that you're going to need, like the ability to learn or knowledge, wisdom, consciousness, maybe your own five senses, my eyesight, my taste, my ability to feel. Now with my hip surgery, you know, my mobility. I mean, I'm seeing how valuable that is, where I'm sitting around all the time and walking with a walker. It's like, okay, mobility. I'm watching things on television and people dancing or moving around. And it's like, oh God, I hope I get to do that again sometime. And you start really valuing things differently. I'm sure you've all had that experience where, you know, you've hurt a foot or an arm or your finger or, you know, something that has changed the way that you take it or take for granted parts of your body or your mobility, that sort of thing. So as it pertains to your purpose, those things that are going to go at the top end of your values are going to start pointing to the direction of your purpose. Like for me, maybe it's the acquisition of knowledge and wisdom and being able to take concepts and put them together in a certain way. And, you know, I don't know, my ability to write books or, you know, write materials and things. Where Ashley, for instance, at the top of her list may have a lot to do with creativity, right? And art, and somebody else, it might be musical instruments or, you know, ways to get music into your life or, you know, but you'll see how even at the top where maybe all of us have the desire to have greater consciousness and physical health and, you know, some of those things, enough money to survive or, you know, valuable work to do, things like that, pretty soon on our lists, they're going to differentiate you from me, any one of you from me or from each other. We're going to differentiate in those values in a way that's going to start pointing towards our own particular path of purpose, you know, where we're going to go with our purpose. So does that make sense? So anyway, putting your values list together would give you some clues. And then the only other one that I'll bring up today, I think, and we've talked about it, would be the knowledge of your past lives. Okay, so self-knowledge is going to be the key. Self-knowledge. If you don't know who you are, how are you ever going to find out what your purpose is, right? If you don't know those deeper talents or, you know, maybe experiences that you've had that show that direction of purpose, if you're unaware of those parts of you, it's going to be really, really hard for you to figure out who you are. And if you don't know who you are, how do you come up with a purpose, right? Because, I mean, I could say my purpose is, I don't know, you know, whatever. But the more I get, in fact, I have, you know, I thought it was, oh, I'm going to heal people or I'm going to teach people. I'm going to, you know, teach classes or whatever, you know, through all the different parts of my occupation. But that's not really it. And the more I look at other past lives, the more I realize more specifically how I can, well, even how I can manifest that purpose in different ways, you know, a lot more variety of ways that I can actually approach that purpose, but, you know, even deeper and deeper layers of, or maybe rather than layers, if purpose, I think we've talked about this in the past, purpose is like the bullseye. You know, if you're shooting an arrow, you have to be aimed at something, right? And so purpose is where we're aiming. And so purpose, I think we talked about this before, meaning towards, towards something. And then pose is to take a stance. So purpose is to take a stance towards something. So we need to know what the bullseye is in order to know which direction we're going to aim at, right? We need to, I could shoot my arrow over here, or I could shoot it over here. So I need to know, where is the target? Where's the bullseye? And so by looking at those past lives, we're going to be able to continue to orient ourselves better. Because if you look at it from that perspective, the bullseye is always there. All right. So the bullseye is maybe always out here for me. But in the various lifetimes, I shot my arrow from here or from here or from here. I've taken a stance from different perspectives or different directions. Like if the bullseye is in the center of a circle, I might have stood anywhere on the perimeter of that circle. But all of those lifetimes, the ones that I'm actually aiming at my purpose. Now, we can have lifetimes where we're just kind of flittering off in some other direction because we're unaware. But the ones that are actually aiming at the bullseye are all coming together. All their aims, all those arrows are focused at that one bullseye at the center of the circle. Does that make sense? More or less? So past life regression. So we need to know those past lives. So we know, how have we taken that stance? So, me 500 years ago, oh, I was over here. Obviously, it was a different culture. It was a different location. It was a different set of circumstances, different society, maybe different languages, different race, different, it could be all sorts of combinations, but I can still point my arrow towards that bullseye. And by stepping into that lifetime and taking a look, okay, even within this culture, within this set of circumstances, maybe I was royalty, maybe I was a servant, maybe I was a slave, maybe I was just, a merchant or whatever. I could have been in any position there, but I take a stance towards that bullseye. And then in another lifetime, another culture, another situation, maybe I'm a man instead of a woman. Who knows what else is happening in those lifetimes. But the idea is, okay, where was I pointing my arrow then? And then when you start to see 10, 15, 20 of those lifetimes, and you're looking at where are they all aimed for, right? And you have an infinite number of lifetimes. So you could have 1,000 examples, right? 1,000 different lifetimes where you've looked at, where am I aimed? And what is the common thread there? What are we all aiming at? All of the parts of me. And what is the purpose of that? And then, the benefit of that is, let's say the purpose is to raise the consciousness of humanity, right? Well, from today, I would say that we haven't been doing a very good job. We've got more work to do, guys. Let's get at it. But let's, whatever that purpose is, we can see, how did we go about it? Where were the failures? Where did I go wrong? How can I do it better? What were the successes? What were the outcomes of my attempts to get my arrow to go right to that bullseye? How close did I get? How successful or how much of a failure was that? So that I can regroup and do it better. Then I have all that collective information in my brain too, not even just as sightseeing, like, oh yeah, I remember that, but I can actually bring that into myself and integrate that as who I am now, and collectively aim, we all collectively aim at that same purpose. Does that make some sense?
Mhm.
Does it seem daunting? It's a lot of work. I mean, but I've remembered dozens of my lifetimes, you know, it's not that hard. Once you start, once you crack open the wall, there's like a veil of thickness, some kind of a fog layer that kind of prevents us from just actively or just easily accessing that information. And once you start to crack that open, it gets easier and easier until, those memories are, you can just go right into it and see it. So you just have to get started. It's not something that, yeah, I'll get around to that someday. It's like you could take 20 minutes a day and be looking at lifetimes. Take your meditation time, and just go find another lifetime. And if you want help with that, of course, if you sign up for my newsletter on my website, it's a little different now. I used to give away a past life regression right away. Now I give a different CD right away, but about 7 weeks into it, then you get a CD, an MP3 that guides you through a past life regression. So, and anybody on this call, if you want to email me, I can send you a link to be able to access that. And then I suggest you just do that, every day, every week. Surely you have 30 minutes out of an entire week to take a look at a past life. And in 1 year, you would have 52 lifetimes that you would know about. That's pretty significant, but by then you would be able to do it a lot easier. And, the past lives would come to you even without the audio tape. So something to think about.
Mm.
Um, yeah. Any questions so far about this? Any other ideas about what, I'm trying to think if I have any other ideas about what we would need. But I think the other thing that we need to have in order to find our purpose is, well, number one, imagination, all right? Because imagination is going to allow us to think outside the box, think out, expand those possibilities. And the other one is self-confidence. And I mean this in the way of, most people underestimate what their purpose is. Even healing the world. Okay, that's pretty general. I think you can hone that down a little bit. It's like saying, well, I could be a musician. Well, okay, but do you play a stringed instrument or a reed instrument or, drums? Are you percussionist? What in that is what you really do? What, if you could narrow it down. So even saying, raising the consciousness of humanity, I think there's so many ways to approach that, and you could find out what is your particular thread for that. But I think that most people play themselves too small, really. And the other one is, it's the typical answer I get always has to do with somebody else. I'm going to fix somebody else. I'm going to make their lives better. I'm going to raise my children. I'm going to be a good wife. Or whatever. That's just one of the ways that you function. And I think we've talked about function versus purpose before in these calls. So if it's what you're doing, that's the function. It's what you are and the way you stand. It's the aim that you take that is the purpose. Okay, so I can function as a teacher, I can function as a writer, I could function as an actress on the stage. I could function in a lot of ways, right? But that's not my purpose. My purpose is not to do any of those things. My purpose is beyond that. That's how I'm functioning while I'm aimed in a certain direction to while I'm aimed in a certain direction at that bullseye that that is the actual purpose. So do you have any questions about any of that? You got it down, huh? It all makes sense. You're ready to do it. Yes, Cinda?
Well, I was just wondering, it sounds to me like your purpose can change from different lifetimes, or is it always going to lead, are all of the lifetimes going to lead to the one? Do we only have one, or could we have others purposes?
It's best to have one purpose, and you would have one purpose over, maybe 1,000 lifetimes. You can change that purpose, but to really change it, then you would be oriented differently. Okay. You could choose consciously to change that purpose. But then that would change the orientation that you're standing. So over all those lifetimes, those are ways that I've functioned. All right. So anybody, all the versions of me, all of my lifetimes that are standing on the perimeter of that circle aimed at one purpose. Okay. So we functioned differently,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
So I might function as a negotiator of treaties in one lifetime, and I may function as a teacher in another lifetime, or function as a farmer that produces produce in another lifetime. But it does, and it almost doesn't matter as long as I'm aimed at the same thing.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the biggest clues that you're going to get to understanding your own personal purpose is looking at those lifetimes, because then you're going to see, oh, this is what that one was doing. This was the aim, the goal of that lifetime. This was the aim and the goal of that lifetime. And then you start piecing it together and going, okay, yeah, I was all these people. I was a housewife, I was a mother, I was a teacher, I was a farmer, I was a government employee, I was royalty, I was a prostitute, I was a saloon maiden, I was, all of those things. But if I was oriented in that lifetime towards achieving a goal, they'll all point towards that same thing. It could be that they aren't, there could be parts of any one of us that just gets lost in a lifetime. I mean, I could be a slave and be doing hard labor and in a terrible situation, and still my orientation could be the same. How I deal with other people, how I think, how I take care of my soul, how I take care of my consciousness could all still be leading to that same purpose. Yeah, I know. It's a lot to take in. But the more you do the past lives, I think the more it's going to make sense to you as well. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, the way you describe it, I almost it feels like this purpose thing is, it's like unattainable. It almost seems like it's this esoteric, and it's this level of knowing that we couldn't even articulate if we tried.
It is a little hard. It's true.
because if you're saying like, look at your past lives, but then you're just going to realize what your function was in those lives, it's not going to point to the purpose. Well, I'm like, well then, the purpose is then elusive, or mutates or is static, or we evolve and move further from it. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting.
No, but no, I'm sorry if I gave that impression. Though, when we go to those past lives, it is going to show us how we functioned, but the orientation of that character, the direction they were moving in, the focus, the passion, the aim is going to be pointing at our purpose. And yes, purpose is kind of an elusive thing to grasp, but we have to get past all the function first, right? And then we start getting to the layers of the direction we're pointing in, right? So, and then ultimately, so maybe let's just say I want to help people increase their consciousness, right? Let's just say that, because that is a part of what I do. I want to do that. But beyond that is my own personal goal of, because in doing so, I'm increasing my consciousness on a couple different layers. Okay. So if I'm helping to explain this to you, it means that I had to do the study and the work in order to know it well enough to teach you, right? So I actually gain my own consciousness by preparing to teach or to share that knowledge with other people. You know, in the conversations we have, then I can feel challenged. Oh, okay, well, maybe I didn't think about it this way, because you are all giving me other ideas, right? So that helps increase my consciousness. And then, but because I'm in a teacher position, that means I have to either correct my philosophy, correct what I'm teaching or what I understand, or intertwine it. Does what Cinda brings to it, or Debbie brings to this, or Ashley brings to this, or Gina, anybody, then okay, how does this fit together? Either it's a challenge, or it was a misunderstanding, or it doesn't fit, or it helps all of us have even a better concept, you know, more dimensionality in that concept, because we've had that input from other people. So ultimately, when I teach, I'm learning better, right? So I'm expanding my consciousness. I have to go do my work with, you know, all my past lives, so that I have a body of information that I can share with you. But in sharing with you, then I grow again, and you know, it pushes me to the next level. So it's very selfish. Everybody's purpose will be very selfish in the end. All right, self-centered, because ultimately, you know, and if you don't know your purpose, this is a good place to start. Ultimately, your purpose is to increase your own consciousness, right? So when Ashley talks about her art, and she's doing it, whether it's for helping people to become, you know, to reconnect with their innocence, or if it's for them to have some other expanded experience through her art, she's expanding, right? Ashley, is this true? Like, you're expanding with every time you do that, because you have to conceptualize it. You have to push the boundaries. You have to come at it from a different direction. You bring a different energy to it. I mean, it's right. Am I right? So ultimately, all of these positions, the only reason that I mentioned, well, not the only reason, but by having gone into these other lifetimes, it absolutely ripped my consciousness open as to the dimensionality of my purpose, and the possibilities, and the various ways that I have expressed it, or aimed toward it, right? Still, the doing is the function, right? So I went to Scotland, and I sat at the fields where that battle of Culloden took place. And I realized, if you've seen Outlander, you know what I'm talking about. But I realized that I was one of the people that were trying to negotiate the treaty between the two factions, because I had loved ones on both sides. And I just sat there with my heart sinking, and the emotion that I felt sitting on that bloody field. I mean, it isn't so bloody now, but you know that it's drenched in blood for acres, and you can walk around there, and it's just so moving. And then to know how hard I fought, not on the battlefield, but at the negotiation table, to try to stop this battle, to stop it before it happened. And failed. It was a complete failure. I mean, on our part of trying to get this treaty to happen. It was such a failure and such a heartbreak to know that our loved ones on both sides were dying. But it helped me to look at, maybe I'm not just a healer and a teacher. By trying to negotiate treaties, I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to get both sides to expand their consciousness, to come at this whole thing from a different perspective, so that we could stop this war from happening, right? So instead of saying, well, all I do in this lifetime is write books, do hypnotherapy, and teach classes, now I have this expanded vision of myself, and I negotiate treaties, right? And I have all these other lifetimes. I've been a bishop, I've been a nun, I've run brothels, I've been a pirate, I've been, name it, I've been royalty. I have all this, and I have it in my head, and I have it in my memory, and in my conscious experience now by doing these regressions. And so that helps me to expand and pull on my consciousness so that I can see my purpose from these different perspectives, right? Whether they failed or they were successes, either way. But, I was a bishop. The worst lifetime I think I've come across so far is a bishop that was part of the Inquisition. So, I was still trying to help people raise their consciousness, but it was completely misguided. I thought I was doing the right thing, but it was misguided, and torturing and killing people because they didn't convert to the Catholic religion. So from my perspective, decades of thinking the Inquisition was the worst thing that ever happened, and then realizing that I was a part of that. But then I also have memories of being on the other side of that and being tortured and being killed and being persecuted. So now, in my conscious memory, in my conscious awareness, I have those experiences. And I have the experience of being so misguided in that bishop lifetime. It's just horrifying for me to think about. But you have to come face to face, even with your dark shadows side, because that failure allows me to grow in this lifetime, and to do it better this time, to do it differently, right? Yeah. So, but I was still oriented at the same thing, right? But just coming at it from the wrong direction, or functioning improperly. So all those lifetimes, but the more you know about them, and the more you incorporate them into who you are now, you have that wisdom and that guidance within you, and that expanded consciousness, which, if that is the goal, then again, coming back to doing the past lives is the quickest way to achieve that goal of expanding your own personal consciousness. Because the more you do those, the more you incorporate those lifetimes, the more, the broader your perception of yourself, the more expanded your consciousness. Okay, any questions now? Does that help, Gina? Actually, did that help to re-explain that?
Yeah, it was nice. Like, I like how you put you combined the concept of past life with the purpose, because I think a lot of people talk about purpose without doing that. And when you do it, it just, what comes to mind is like the Fibonacci sequence and thinking
Uh-huh.
about the origin of the universe. And so I
Mhm.
guess my last question is, does purpose become an origin or a destination, or is it both?
It's interesting. That's an interesting question. I I can't say that I know the answer, but I would say it's the destination. But your purpose was the seed that was in you when you were created. So um, it's the seed and the destination, if that makes sense. Because when you were created with a very unique set of characteristics, potential, aptitude, just your whole character, the energy that you have, that sort of thing. And so that makes you, everybody here, very uniquely you, right? We're all just unique, like snowflakes, where we're just completely different from each other, right? Um, and so then we have to find our own, our own path in that. But so the purpose was already created at that inception, but it is the orientation of where we're going. Well, maybe that's not even true. The potential was there. The potential was within us. And it does take consciousness to create a purpose. If something does not have consciousness, then, or there's no conscious um, dictation of a purpose, there is no purpose. So a piece of wood or the dirt outside has no innate purpose. It doesn't have any purpose. It just is. But as conscious beings, we say, huh, or, conscious beings, we could say, well, we could plant some crops in that dirt, or we could build a building there or something, we could make bricks out of it. We design, consciousness would design what the purpose is then. And so we have consciousness, so we can design that. So the consciousness that was within us at the moment of our creation also oriented us towards our purpose based on the potential that we had. And maybe 1,000 years ago, you changed that purpose. Maybe you decided, well, enough of this already. I'm going to orient myself to a different purpose. You can do that. It's a big shift. I'm not even sure how you do it. I know that it can happen. It would shift everything, but I don't think we need to worry about that now. We just need to figure out what the one is we have right now, right? And get busy with it and bring in, and then once we have that awareness, and even if we just choose for now, let's just raise our own consciousness and not even worry about anybody else. We need to be sure that we're taking care of our own consciousness. How am I expanding it? How much, how can I learn more about myself? That sort of thing. How can I feed it with more information, but not only information, but integrating that. So when we receive information, it has to impress us. It has to make us different, or it has no value. If I read a book and I have it all in my head and I can tell you a bunch of facts, but it doesn't change the way that I act or the way that I am, then it hasn't really made an impression on me. It hasn't really changed me. I haven't grown from that information. We actually have to incorporate that and allow it to like, for instance, you could do the values exercise that we talked at the beginning of this call, and you could put everything in order and look at that and go, wow, that's me. That's what I like, but never do anything about it, right? I want to be healthy. I want to expand my consciousness. I want to learn more, da, 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 da. And yet, you know, it's over here and I'm going to sit on the couch and watch TV all day. Well, then the whole exercise of figuring out your values is worthless. It didn't make an impression on you. If it didn't make you more grateful for what you have, or change the way that you feel about the things and people around you, if it didn't change you in any way, then it was just a waste of time, right? So we have to allow our learning to actually impress us and alter something within us, and that's what would be the mark of growth. We've covered a lot of ground today, do you think? Have I given you a lot of information? I think that we could stop with that and let you all chew on that for a little bit. I think it would be great to play around with your values. Really, certainly try to get, try to live more according to the ideal values rather than the way, and everybody has a difference between our true values and the way we live, right? I want to be healthy. I want to exercise. I want to dance more. I want, and then here, oh, I'm sitting on the couch. I won't go to the gym, all that stuff is like, okay, that's where the stress comes in. That's where the contradiction comes within us. So if we make the list and we start living according to those values, I mean, that alone will start changing you and start growing. You'll start growing and things will feel different. So maybe between today and next week, you'll work on that and come and tell me what has changed inside of you in this week, between now and next week. Let me just check, because I know I have one other medical appointment that was, I don't think it's for a couple of weeks. I have another medical appointment coming up. Yeah, it's on the 21st of July. So in about 3 weeks, we're going to take another week off again. So that'll give you even more time to integrate everything. But let's see what you actually do this week and see if there's something, maybe take a risk or steps outside of your normal cycle and pattern, or get in touch with your passions. Certainly look at your value list and see if there's something that can grow or change with you over this next week. Maybe know some of your past lives. And before we close, I just want to say, if there's anybody who wants to take the professional training in hypnotherapy and past life regression, I have another class that is starting July 31st, and the course is on sale. I have a savings now of $350 to take the course that ends July 7th. It's my 4th of July sale. And so if you're interested in actually getting trained with me in hypnotherapy and past life regression, now is a good time to jump in, and the calls will start July 31st, 7 Saturdays for 3 hours in the morning Pacific time. It's 9 to noon in the Pacific Daylight Savings Time, and for 7 weeks. So you would be certified by the middle of September 11th, actually, is our last call on that one. So that would be kind of fun. So anyway, anything else, or we'll just close for today? Anybody have any other comments? Questions, concerns? Were there any comments from Facebook, Anna? Nothing? Okay, they're quiet over on that side. Okay, all right. Well, thank you all for being here today. It's just fabulous seeing all your wonderful faces again after our 3-week break. And I hope that's been helpful. And certainly let me know if you have any questions in between, you know how to get in touch with me. And I'll see you next Wednesday.
Bye, Mary.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Namaste.
Yeah, thank you. It's lovely to see you all.